So I didn't quite get around to finishing off my webinar the other day, so I just wanted to go through um, how I created that particular scene, web scene in ArcGIS Online. So I did this through ArcGIS Pro. So I'm going to open ArcGIS Pro, and I'm going to create a blank project. So this is going to create a blank project for me. And you can see from my project page that database is created, FileView database is created by default. There's no feature classes in it, so that's what I'm going to start off with. I'm going to create a line feature class. I'm going to call it C2SummitRoute. I'm going to use a polyline geometry type. I'm going to store the Z attributes in the geometry. I'm going to use the default coordinate system, which is the one that's used in ArcGIS Online. I'm going to run that. That's going to create a feature class in my FileView database. And then I'm going to edit the fields that are stored in that database. So I'm going to add in a route ID with an alias of route ID. And I'm going to store that. Then I'm going to add that to a new map. And once that's done, I can start digitizing. So I'm going to create a feature. And you can change the attributes here. So I'm going to say A. Yeah, I stored it as a long, so I can only store digits in there. So I'm going to save that then. So I just wanted to go through how I've actually digitized the C2SummitRoute. That's essentially how I stored it, and then I shared it as a layer in ArcGIS Online. Once I got to there, it showed up in ArcGIS Online as a layer. Within that layer item, there's a link to the REST endpoint, which is what I have here. So I'm going to search. I'm going to query this this layer. So it's called C2SummitRoute. I'm going to query it where 1 is equal to 1 and outfields star. So I'm going to get everything from the feature service and all the fields. I'm going to return it as JSON. So I'm then going to copy this into Notepad and store it as C2SummitRoute. Okay, so this is going to be stored as a text file now. Okay, so I'm going to go into my projects and C2Summit demo. So you'll see my text file there, and I'm going to rename it to JSON. So it's stored as JSON. If you can't see the text, you can go into Organize, Folder and Search Options, View, and you can untick the box to hide extensions for known file types. So this will allow you to change the text file to JSON. So then I'm going to open up ArcGIS Pro again. I'm going to remove this layer, and I'm going to run a tool to add in the JSON into this FileView database. So I'll go into Analysis, Tools, and I'm going to search for JSON. And I'm going to use JSON features, select my JSON input, and it's going to automatically store it into this FileView database. So once I run that, it's going to add it into the map and zoom to that layer. And you can see in there from the attribute table, I have five lines with just a stage number. So there's 5 stages in the C2SummitRoute, and I've just numbered the lines accordingly. But what I actually want is the elevation along this route, and I want to store those in points. So I'm going to create a point feature class. And I'm going to store it as a point, and everything else, leave everything as default. Once I have that done, I'm going to edit and create some points, and I'm going to base them along the lines that I have already, and I'm going to do it so it's equal distance. I want to show a point every half a kilometer. So I'm going to select one of my lines, select the start and end of the line, and I'm going to do it in kilometers. So I'm going to do this for each of my lines. So I know the last one is 5. Okay, so select 5. And so now I've created points along each of my lines every half a kilometer. Okay, so I'm going to save those edits. And now we can look at the attribute table and we'll see that we should have 210 points. Okay. So now I want to add in the elevation for each of those points into the attributes. So I have a digital elevation model that I'm going to use to get the elevation for each of those points. And I'm going to run another tool, and it's called extract values. Extract values to points. So my input point features are going to be my seed-to-summit points, and I have a raster file which is stored on my desktop. So this is going to store it into a new point feature class in the same file database. I'm going to rename it seed-to-summit elevation. Okay, so I'm going to remove these other layers because this is going to be my final point feature class. And I'm going to look at the attribute table and you'll see that the raster values have been added for each point. Now I know from looking at this before that some values are actually stored as -999. So I'm going to do a definition query, which is essentially just a filter. I'm going to select raster value where it's equal to 999. Add that in, and I'm going to edit each of those points. So I'll select all those and just change them so they're not 999. 9999. Okay, so I'm going to rename. I'm going to change them to just a 1. If I leave them as -999, they show as if they go underground, so it's not really appropriate. I'm going to save those edits. And then we're pretty much ready to go. So we can add these points into the scene. So I'm going to create a new scene. I'm going to close this map. And so now I'm actually in the scene, so you can see the whole globe here. And it goes around like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a preset. I'm going to select a thematic shape. So I have to select a point feature class here, so I'm going to use the, I have to go back here and go to my projects. And so there's my elevation. So I'll select that. And now it's going to load my symbology. So I'm going to display a standing cylinder. And I'm going to color using the raster value. I'm going to change the color ramp. And the min is 0. Before it was showing up as minus 9999 when I did it the first time. But now we don't have to worry about that. And for my height, I'm going to use my raster value as well. I'm going to use the default scale and change the width to 100 meters. Now I'm going to zoom to my layer, and we'll see part of some of my points. And so the reason for that is because the scene is showing some of the elevation, so you can see that it's actually in 3D here, and you can move around and you can see the elevation. So we actually want to be able to see the points. So I'm going to edit the see to some elevation, and I'm going to change the properties of the layer. I'm going to elevation and say on the ground. So this will mean we can actually see the points and their size and their color ramp. So this will display on the ground as opposed to on the Z, based on the Z attribute, which is 0 for all of the layers. So that's all the symbology I want to do now. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to actually add in a couple of more things. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here again. So we have 2 copies of it. I'm going to have one on the ground and one relative to the ground. Okay, I think I actually picked the wrong one there. So I'm going to say at an absolute height. Yeah, okay, so that's what I want there. And this is, I'm going to call them both elevation. So I'll rename them. This is going to be on the ground. This is going to be the absolute height. I'm going to check exactly what it was. Yeah, absolute height. I want to add in my my lines as well, because I want to be able to see the route. So I'm going to add in this, and the same thing, I'm going to add it in twice. So one of them is going to be on the ground, and one of them is going to be at an absolute height. So that's on the ground, and this is going to be at an absolute height. And I'm going to rename them to route. So I have to change this to absolute height. Yeah. and I'm going to symbolize them slightly differently as well. So it's going to use the field for the stage number, and they're going to be colored accordingly. Stage number. I'm going to add all the values. The same with this one here. I'm just going to go for two different schemes, but just so we have them. Okay, so that's all the symbology I want to do, and I'm going to save that. Okay, so now I'm going to share with ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to share as a web scene, and let's say Sea to Summit. Web scene of Sea to Summit. Okay, so that's going to be added into ArcGIS Online now once I share that. And I'll open up my ArcGIS Online account. Okay, so we'll just give that a second to finish up. Nearly there. There we go. Alright, so I'll refresh my ArcGIS Online account, and there's my web feature, my web scene. So it creates a feature layer, feature service, and my web scene. So if you go into the web scene feature service, you can see that it's after creating 4 different layers, and that's again how you get back into that REST endpoint if you want to query them. But I'm going to open up my web scene and see what it looks like. Okay, so there's a couple of things in here that you're able to do. The first thing I'm going to do is just show them on the ground. I'm going to show them at an absolute height. So turn off those other layers, and you might be wondering, well, like you can't see anything here. But what you can actually do, there's 2 things you can do here. You can either turn off the elevation, which I'm not going to do. I want to leave it on, or you can see through the ground. So that'll allow you to actually see behind the base map, and you can see that from the base map it's still showing the elevation a little bit there, and so then you can move around, and you can create slides. So I'm going to create a slide just from this side here. I'm going to capture that as a slide, and this will show seat to summit elevation. You can also create group layers if you want. I'm not gonna do that now, but that can be handy if you want to organize your data in different ways. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the seated ground, and I'm going to just show some of the layers. Show some of the other layers. So I'll turn on, say, the other elevation. So I'll show them on top of the base map. And I'm going to create a slide for that. Call it the same thing. One with, one without the base map. And then so you can create slides, so you can move around. Couple of shortcuts that I use on my keyboard is I use B, which allows you to have kind of look around, so it'll change your view. So you can press B and drag the mouse around, and that'll show you the direction that you're looking in. Obviously, to zoom in and out is handy. N, you can use N if you want to just show north. So this is shown directly from north, and if you want to look directly from above, from a perpendicular view, you can just press P. So that'll show directly coming down. So you can create some nice views. And you can store them in a slide. So I'll just call this Croagh Patrick. Okay, so I think I've pretty much gone through everything I did in my existing web scene. So I'm just going to save that anyway and say seat to summit web scene. And you can see that's been saved to my content there. I'm just going to have a look at my other one just to make sure I've gone through everything that I had intended on. I have created more views in this, but it's essentially the same thing. I've also grouped them so you can see have a couple of two different grouped layers. Oh yeah, so the first thing I'm doing is I'm just showing the route itself. Then I'm just showing the base map with the route. I'm showing the elevation, I think that's from north, with the base maps turned off, so you can see through them. Then this one is showing the base maps with the points on top. That's Croagh Patrick with the base maps turned off. It's Croagh Patrick with no layers on, it's just showing the default base maps. That's showing one of the hills that you go up during the seat to summit, and then that's just showing it without any layers turned on. It's just showing the default base maps. And then finally, it's just one from above, and I've altered the time of day, so you can change the environment so it shows the time of day. So it's either dark or it's light, and it'll change the direction of the shadowing as well if you want. So yeah, that's all I wanted to go through. It's taken a while now. I've put a little bit more into this, given that I was going to do it after the webinar. I wasn't intended on showing as much as I did, but hopefully you get something out of that, and you should, yeah, sure, have a look at it and see how you get on.